677, Anthem, Elevance, whatever they are, 480 million, Centene, 447 million, CVS, 358, Humana, 322, and lowly Molina, 112 million a day. That's what healthcare companies get under Obamacare every day. So when Senator Schumer says it gets better for us, I guarantee you every day we keep this system in place is a great day for the healthcare insurance companies who have been making out literally like bandits under Obamacare. In case this job doesn't work out for any of us, you want to go into the healthcare business, big upgrade. United Health Group, CEO made $26.3 million. Cigna, $23.3. Molina, $21.9. Centene, $20.6. Elevance Health, Anthem, $20.5. CVS, $17.8. Humana lagging the field at $15.6. These people are doing very well. The problem is, health insurance companies do great every day from Obamacare. All these healthcare CEOs are doing fantastic, but you, the consumer, not so much. You were promised when Obamacare passed in 2010, President Obama said every family in America who participates in this thing will have about a $2,500 savings in premium reductions. It's been like a 100% increase. You just didn't miss it a little bit, you missed it a lot. This thing is unsustainable. Why do you call something the Affordable Health Care Act when every 5 minutes you're asking me and the presiding officer to dump $350 billion in it to keep it afloat? It's not affordable. It's never been affordable. The only people winning from this are healthcare insurance companies, CEOs, and it needs to stop. And why is the government shut down? The government is shut down because our friends on the other side are insisting we continue this program for another year. I'm not going to continue it for another day. I'm not going to pour tens of billions of dollars through Obamacare into healthcare insurance companies with the result being your premiums have increased by 100%. We're going to stop that. Would like to work with you to come up with a better deal. Here's the good news. It wouldn't take much to make it a better deal. But if you're wondering what kind of deal it's been for healthcare companies, United Healthcare Group, 1,177% increase in their stock prices since Obamacare. Look at these numbers. I mean, 822, 414, 490, 859, 604, 595% increase in stock prices after the passage of Obamacare. These are the big winners, not you. And we're going to break this healthcare cartel. We're going to take this money that's flowing to insurance companies, and we're going to try to get it directly to you, the consumer, so you can have more purchasing power and actually, over time, create more competition and lower your health care prices. Something Obamacare is not doing. And to illustrate my point, I've gone from no charts to a bunch of charts. This is a big change in my life. Even I can understand that. That's like a rocket ship compared to the rest of the economy. So what have we discovered in the last few days? We have discovered that the subsidies under Obamacare are a windfall for insurance companies. We've discovered that every day we talk about health care as it is today, they're making a gob of money, hundreds of millions of dollars a day. We've learned that these health insurance companies have had stock increase prices unlike any other sector of the economy, and it all happened after Obamacare. They promised you lower premiums. Your premiums have doubled. What's happened? The big winners, insurance companies, and insurance companies are doing the Democratic Party's bidding. They're signing up people for Obamacare that haven't made a claim in 3 years. For every person they can find, they get money. So if they got an incentive just to stack this thing with people, whether it's good health care or not. So what did President Trump say today? He said, he recommended to all the Republicans, stand your ground, break this cycle, take the money away from health insurance companies, and let's flow it to the people to give them more purchasing power and stop the money-sucking health insurance companies from taking tens of billions of dollars out of Obamacare. So the Affordable Care Act is not affordable. There is a better way. We're going to insist on that better way. And to my Democratic friends, we're not going to extend this program for a year because that would be unfair to the taxpayer. That would continue a health care system that's out of control. It would enrich insurance companies even more. We're not going to do that. We're going to replace this broken system with something that is actually better for the consumer to meet the goal of lowering health care cost. So you have to understand, terrorizing the public is not going to get us as Republicans to continue a very bad health care bill. We're not going to do it. We will talk to you, President Trump will, all of us will, about how getting better value is possible, how lower premiums is possible, but you got to change the fundamental precept of Obamacare, which is proven to be anything but affordable. That's like the Inflation Reduction Act. All it did was cause inflation. The Affordable Health Care Act has become unaffordable. Obamacare is growing faster than almost any other thing in health care because it's designed to enrich health care companies. The more people they sign up, the more money they get, and it's not about quality. It's about stacking as many people as you can under the umbrella of government-run health care, and apparently it doesn't matter if the government-run health care is working. It does matter to us. We would like to get a better return on investment. So I want to congratulate President Trump. He has gotten into the game today. He's given us a pathway forward. I'm going to heed his advice and counsel. I am not going to extend the unaffordable health care, Obama health care program for another year, another day. There's a better way. President Trump talked to me this morning. He'd like to sit down and see if we can come up with a better solution. I know we can, but we're not going to do it while the government shut down. This is day 37, 38, whatever day it is. Every day is hundreds of millions of dollars to these insurance companies. Every day we've shut the government down is families who work for the government have no money. We're hurting our national security. We're hurting morale. It's getting dangerous to fly. So stop it. End this madness. We tried to shut the government down to build a wall. We eventually built the wall because it's a good idea, but shutting the government down to build a wall wasn't a good idea. So I would urge you, my Democratic colleagues, keep working with us. Open this government. Let's find a way to provide better health care that doesn't enrich insurance companies. Let's see if we can break this cycle of all the money going to insurance companies. They're getting filthy rich off this. See if we can take the money and actually give it to people to buy better health care, to lower cost and create competition. Mr. President, in case you're listening out there, I think you've come up with a good idea. Count me on board. To my colleagues on this side, this is a fight worth having. To my Democratic colleagues, let's open up the government and act like adults and see if we can get this problem in a better spot. We'll never do it with the government shut down. The only thing that's going to come from the government shutdown is misery, pain, and heartache. With that, I'll yield.
President.
Gentleman from North Dakota.
Madam President, I'm pleased to join my colleague from South Carolina on the floor and really want to echo and emphasize what he's talking about. And that is that health care absolutely needs to be reformed. And as the senator from South Carolina said that that's exactly what the president has said. We've got to reform health care because medical inflation is going up like a rocket. And it is not going to change until we reform this health care system. And it starts with making sure that support goes to people so they have more control over their own health care. That is just common sense. And so I agree with my colleague from South Carolina, and certainly with the president's comment that that's the kind of reform that needs to be done, but it needs to be done when the government is open. And again, we are calling on our colleagues to join us, to vote, to open up government. The American people are suffering. We need to get back to work on all these issues, and that happens when they join us and vote to open up government. For more than a month, Democrats have refused to pass a simple, clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution, one that would simply keep government open and allow us to continue our work on all these things and on the appropriations process, regular order, moving the bills through the way we should. And gee, this is something that they did 13 times during the Biden administration, 13 times during the Biden administration. And it wasn't just some of the Democrats that made these 13 votes, it was all of them. All of them. All of them. And now they continue to hold government hostage, and the American people pay the price. For more than a month, Democrats have put programs like SNAP at risk, jeopardizing support that 42 million Americans rely on to help put food on the table. For more than a month, Democrats have refused to support women and young children who rely on WIC programs for supplemental nutrition assistance. Emergency funding for that program is nearly exhausted. For more than a month, Democrats have refused to provide educational opportunities to the 750,000 children who participate in the Head Start program, many of which are in danger of closing soon or have already been shuttered. For more than a month, Democrats have refused to pay federal employees, including our military, our National Guard, air traffic controllers, and TSA agents, those who keep this nation safe. These individuals are maintaining critical services for our nation while facing major personal financial uncertainty. The Department of Transportation has been forced to order air service reductions across the country in order to protect the safety of the traveling public, as fed up and tired air traffic controllers continue to go without pay. The men and women of our armed forces are waiting in line at food banks and struggling to pay their rent. Madam President, the American people are suffering. This shutdown is not governing. Senate Democrats need to vote with us to reopen the government so we can continue our work on full-year appropriation bills. As I said just a minute ago, during President Biden's administration, Democrats passed the same kind of clean, short-term CR 13 times. Now they want to add extraneous policies just to keep the government funded. The Appropriations Committee has advanced 8 of the 12 appropriation bills with strong bipartisan majorities. We have passed 3 of those bills on the Senate floor with more than 80 votes, and we're ready to move on them today and to get back to regular order and the appropriations process, govern the right way, fund priorities, find savings to address the deficit where we can, and make sure we are doing our work on behalf of the American people. Madam President, it is long past time for Democrats to vote yes to reopen the government. It is time to resume governing on behalf of the American people. It's that simple. With that, I yield the floor. President,
Gentleman from North Dakota.
I note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Also Brooks.
Democratic leader.
Ask unanimous consent the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
Well, Madam President, the blast radius of the Republican shutdown grows even larger. This morning, tens of millions of Americans remain in limbo as this administration continues its crusade against SNAP. The Supreme Court has allowed the administration to withhold benefits as the case makes its way through the lower courts. For this administration to go all the way to the Supreme Court just to get out of having to pay SNAP benefits for hungry kids is pathological levels of vindictiveness. This crisis is in the administration's hands. It's all them, not anyone else. The minute the administration wanted to, it could find a fix for SNAP and ensure that people don't go hungry. But they're not choosing to act in what is really a nasty act of hostage-taking against the most vulnerable people in our society. Let me read what the Rhode Island judge said earlier this week about this case. Quote, "People have gone without for too long. Not making payments to them for even another day is simply unacceptable." Now, the administration could have said, okay, we'll have to pay it, but that wasn't good enough for them. Of course not. This administration, again, is viciously cruel and will use anybody for a hostage. But the chaos doesn't end with SNAP benefits. 39 days into the crisis, the FAA has ordered a 10% cut of flights at America's busiest airports, and Secretary Duffy warned it could soon reach 20%. As of this morning, over 1,000 flights have been canceled. Travelers are standing in line for hours just to get through security. Parents traveling to see their kids have had their plans turned upside down. People traveling for funerals, family reunions, business trips have all too often been met with chaos. But what's happening at America's airports right now is not an accident. It's a stunt. Look at the way the order was designed. 4% of flights canceled yesterday at 40 major airports, with plans to ramp up day to day until it hits 10% and maybe 20%. How much more transparently political can you get? This isn't about safety. It's about politics masquerading as safety. When air traffic controllers are working without pay, when the system is strained to its limit, the solution isn't to cancel flights. It's to pay the worker and open up the government, which the administration could do right now. As I understand it, under previous shutdowns, airports were never shut down. But again, the level that this administration, the level that they will go to, putting the American people in discomfort and worse, is unprecedented. Instead of negotiating with Democrats to lower costs, Republicans would rather let air traffic controllers go unpaid. Instead of negotiating with Democrats to reopen the government, they'd rather ground flights. Instead of negotiating with Democrats to help families, they're punishing travelers. Instead of governing, Republicans are playing games with people's livelihoods. And they have the ability to pay the air traffic controllers like they sent money, just as Trump sent money to Argentina, $20 billion. If they wanted to find the money, they could. Absolutely. So why? Why have Republicans dragged this shutdown on for so long? Because they don't want to lower health care costs. Because they seem happy to let 24 million Americans see their premiums double on average. Yesterday, we offered Republicans a perfectly reasonable compromise to get out of this horrible shutdown that they installed on the American people. We offered three things. We all vote to reopen the government. We all approve a one-time temporary extension of current ACA premium tax credits, and then after we reopen, we'll negotiate, as Republicans say they want, for longer-term fixes to ACA affordability.
Will the senator yield for a question?
No, only after I finish. Okay. I know many Republicans stormed out the gate to dismiss this offer, but that's a terrible mistake. Our offer is not a new policy. This is not negotiating in a shutdown. It's simply agreeing to maintain current funding levels. A one-year extension is something many Republicans themselves have said they want. It's something a great many Americans support. 55% of Trump supporters support it, after all. So it's alarming that Republicans even refuse to acknowledge we have an immediate crisis right now that needs fixing. Listen to the arguments Republicans have been making on the floor. Just listen. Republicans are making it clear as day that they are happy to let premiums skyrocket. Behind me is the consequence. Look at this across America in states red and blue. The black areas are districts that would increase subsidies, that subsidy costs would increase that insurance payments for people would increase 300%. Dark blue 200 to 300, and the list goes on. Look how bad it is. Every single state's impacted, most of all Republican states. Look, if Republicans want to talk about long-term fixes to ACA affordability, Democrats are ready. We said so yesterday. But in the meantime, doing nothing is derelict because people will go bankrupt, people will lose insurance, people will get sicker. And that's what will happen if this Congress fails to act. Republicans must act. I yield to my colleague from Ohio.
Thank you to the Democrat leader for yielding to a question. Have you put forward a proposal that we can read that you referenced in your speech, what says a clean continuing resolution with the extension of the ACA Biden COVID credits?
Yes, as we spoke yesterday.
So there is
I will not be interrupted.
No, my question is there a proposal in writing that we can read?
There is a proposal that is very simple. First, you haven't put your proposed ACA, your proposed fix to the ACA, the new one, which Leader Thune has spoken about on the floor, so we can't give you a counter in writing. But it's very simple, because we have two sentences we would add to any proposal, which would extend the ACA benefits for 1 year. That's all, plain and simple. And the leader can put that in his proposal on opening up the government. So it doesn't need a vote. It can't be blocked by anybody. It's the right thing to do.
Would it still have no income caps, so people who make $1 million, $2, $3 million a
As
year?
we said, if he would have listened to my speech yesterday, once we passed the one-year fix, so people right now aren't in difficulty, we would sit and negotiate that. The leader has said he won't negotiate before. We're willing to negotiate once the credits are extended, plain and simple. And we made that in our proposal yesterday.
So for 1 year, people making millions of dollars would still receive these COVID-era subsidies?
The bottom line is the senator from Ohio ignores that 99% of people, you want to hurt people making $10,000, $50,000, $90,000 and hold this up? We can fix what the gentleman said in a negotiation, but don't have people who are every day being hurt by paying thousands of dollars more that they can't afford. I know that the senator from Ohio cares about the billionaires. We care about average working people. I yield the floor.
So just to be clear, Ms. President.
Was recognized.
So just to be clear, what you heard from the minority leader was the following. I just want to recap it for those of you who might have missed. Number one, he acknowledged that the Democrats have actually not put forward a written proposal that people could look at. Number two, he acknowledged that his plan would be to allow millionaires, let me just say that clearly, people making millions of dollars would receive Biden-era COVID Obamacare subsidies. You heard that right. No income cap. I was going to ask him before he stormed out of the room, because evidently he doesn't want to hear any opposing views or actually engage in meaningful negotiation. He would have heard me ask the next question, Madam President, which is, would he continue $0 premiums, which we know for a fact have enormous levels of fraud? If he had stayed, I would have asked him a third question. Does he want these monies to go directly to insurance companies? Let me repeat that, Madam President, because I don't think the American people have been told the truth here. This money does not go to people on Obamacare. This is a check written from the federal government to the wealthiest insurance companies on the planet. He wants no income caps, millionaires getting COVID subsidies. He wants $0 premiums that are filled with fraud. And he wants to enrich insurance companies even more. And because he can't get that, here's the irony. There's federal workers, military, TSA, the clerks here that aren't receiving paychecks, that might get their health insurance canceled because we're not sending the premiums in. He's doing this to help people who have made millions of dollars already with this flawed healthcare system. And, Madam President, to make it worse, he admitted right here on the floor of the United States Senate, the minority leader admitted that he has actually not submitted a written proposal to allow the Senate to consider. And let me just say one last thing, and I'll yield my time to the senator from Louisiana, who last night, I want to give him enormous credit, honestly, phenomenal proposal. I love what you said, which is instead of sending this money to insurance companies, why don't we send it to the people directly? Let them be empowered to hold insurance companies accountable. Let them make the decisions. I find it laughable that he says, I'm for billionaires. I'm somebody who worked my entire life in a private sector, and according to financial disclosures, he has a higher net worth than I do, and he's been a politician his whole life. So I don't know the math around that. But I'll yield the floor to my great colleague from Louisiana, who sadly, by the way, I want the cameras don't pan the room. There's no Democrats here listening to what you're about to say. And you're here because you're a good man, because in your heart you want to fix this. They say that we won't negotiate with them. They want to negotiate with President Trump, which is funny because I look around, there's little plaques all over this floor. There's none that say Donald J. Trump. There's none that say that. This is a negotiation among the United States Senate. But they're not even here. Look, gone, empty. Maybe they're at lunch with some lobbyists. Maybe from insurance company lobbyists are taking him out and playing golf today. I would if I were an insurance company lobbyist. I'd be like, man, you guys are making me rich. Like filthy, filthy rich. And isn't it, and I'm going to end, I swear here. Isn't it ironic, Senator Cassidy, that we want to give the money directly to the American people, and they want to give it right into the pockets of the people who fund their campaigns, and maybe they even own those stocks? Things for people out there to listen to and think about. I'll yield the floor now.
Thank you, Senator Moreno. And I think Senator Moreno...
Gentleman from Louisiana.
Thank you. I think Senator Moreno, and frankly, Senator Schumer, they are reflecting the frustration the American people have. I'm going to give a speech which is substantially the same as what I gave last night, and I'll give it again later today. It's like TV advertising. I need people to actually listen to what I am saying as opposed to immediately presuming they know what I'm going to say, and we end in the same dadgum situation we've been for 39 days. We need to open the government. So, if we need to talk about health care to open the government, let's talk about health care. Now, and again, I worked for 20 years in a public hospital for the uninsured and the poorly insured. I know the consequences of this inflation that we have been having when it comes to health insurance. I know the impact it's having upon people as to whether or not, my gosh, can I even afford to keep it? So Congress, Senate, let's find a solution. But to find a solution, we have to put down the way we've always thought. The way that, oh my gosh, we are going to oppose if the other side proposes it just because the other side proposes. We've got to actually move beyond the entrenched way of thinking and be creative. So, and may I point out an irony here? Senator Moreno talked about irony. Right now, the Republicans are trying to return to the original ACA model in which money went straight to the patient, but not to the insurance company. At some point, it wasn't funded, and so the first Trump administration allowed a workaround, and that workaround has led to these high premiums. Democrats are going to the mattress to defend a workaround from the first Trump administration that was trying to make up for a portion of the Affordable Care Act that could not be implemented. They should be saying, let's go kind of back to the model of how the Affordable Care Act was supposed to be implemented. Instead, they're defending Trump 1 policies. I don't even know if they know that, but it's their, my gosh, I got to oppose just to oppose, that's going to defeat us getting out of this lockdown. So let's just talk about the enhanced premium tax credit. Again, a program that sends billions this coming year. $26 billion will go to insurers if all we do is a straight-out reauthorization. But that actually doesn't make health care less affordable. And in fact, even for health insurance, it can make the policy more expensive for many of those who are in the individual market. Now, let me make clear now. I am not. Are we ready for a thing? And by the way, let me just show this chart as to the impact this is having upon health insurers. This is major health insurance company stock performance after the passage of Obamacare, from March 2010 to November 2025. For United Health Group, they're up almost 1,200%. For Cigna, 800%. And you can go down the line. Now, I'm not bashing insurance companies. We need them. But do we really need to send $26 billion more this year when we can send it straight to the patient? By the way, and we're not talking about doing away with every part of the health insurance program, just that portion currently being funded by the enhanced premium tax credits. And so when Senator Moreno talks about these dollars going to insurance companies, we can see the impact of that upon their stock price. It's done great. So let's maybe do something different. Let's, instead of worried about the pocketbook of the insurance company, let's worry about the pocketbook of our fellow American who's paying these higher costs. Now, instead of paying the insurance company to manage the care, my proposal is to have a pre-funded federal flexible spending account. Now, before I go into that detail, let's talk about the problems of the enhanced premium tax credits. And by the way, this is Bill Cassidy talking. This is not the chairman of the Health Committee. This is not the Trump administration. This is not the leader of the Senate. This is my proposal, And I don't attribute it to anybody, although I'll note that the president apparently is in support. And right now I'm speaking to my colleagues and I'm speaking to Americans who might be watching. Now, under the enhanced premium tax credit, if your insurance premium goes up, Washington just pays more. There's absolutely no incentive for the insurers to hold down cost, because the more it costs, the more they get. Think about that. The higher the health care cost, the more the insurance company gets. Now, they're not evil, but I will say there's a clear motivation here. If you're a profit-making company and you can be insensitive to how much that cost is increasing, you're going to be insensitive. We need to have incentive to bring the cost down. We need to have a transparency as to what things actually cost, and we need to reward families who actually try and save. I liken this to, you got a broken bone, you put a bandage on it, it doesn't heal the fracture, it just hides the broken bone. Let's fix the broken bone. We actually need to help the patient, the family, be incentivized to shop for that lower cost and incentivize the companies to lower the cost. So the enhanced premium tax credit, it doesn't empower patients. It enriches insurance company, and I will note that since this Obamacare passed, insurance companies have done very well. But the patient's health care has become more expensive, and it's now out of the reach for many families. Now, I got a tweet last night from one of my Democratic colleagues. No, we got to defend status quo. I'm thinking, and this person is a vociferous critic of insurance companies. And I'm thinking, will you just listen? As opposed to just reject, listen. We don't want this $26 billion going to insurance companies where 20% of it is taken for administrative overhead and profit. We want it to go to the families where 100% is paid for health care. And not in some way which puts them at a disadvantage, but in a way which puts them at an advantage. And as opposed to discussing this over Twitter, let's actually meet face to face and see if you can be persuaded that this is a better way to go. So what can we do to break the model, to do something different? Can we, are we ready for the next one now? Now imagine a different, chart 2, please. Now imagine a different type of help, not an insurance subsidy, but a health account that you, our fellow Americans, control. Right now, where does the health care dollar go? In the enhanced premium tax credit, it goes to the insurance company. 20% is going to administrative overhead. That should read 80%. And 80% is going to pay for payments of care. So 20% for administrative overhead, you lose that, 80% to take care of payments. Here, we take that portion of the current payment the federal government is making that goes to enhanced premium tax credits, and we put it in a pre-funded flexible savings account. And the patient has an account. My wife and I have one of these. It works pretty well. And 100% of the money goes to paying for health care. And it can pay for the physician, the medicines, it can pay for dentistry and orthodontia. So in all this, you've got a 20% plus up in the amount available to actually pay for health care. Now, every eligible American citizen on the exchange would get this federally pre-funded. I keep stressing the pre-funded. In the health savings account my wife and I have, we're on an Obamacare exchange, we actually take a portion of our income and we designate it to go into the flexible spending account. But here, we would take a value equal to the amount the person would have otherwise received from the enhanced premium tax credit, and we put it in the flexible spending account. And it pays for real world expenses. I just mentioned, it pays for dental care. It pays for eyeglasses. Keep in mind, many insurance policies on the exchanges don't pay for dental care, and they don't pay for eyeglasses. It's something extra that you have to purchase. In this case, the flexible spending account would allow that to be done. Prescription drugs, your routine medical services and preventive care. It does not go for premiums, though. It goes to the patient, and the patient then uses it as she understands helps her family's budget the most. Now, by the way, let me just give a shout out to the president. He recognizes we have a problem. He knows the insurance market is broken. He put out a tweet last night favoring this approach. And you can't read this because it's too much language, but you see it's from Donald J. Trump, and bottom line is he wants money to go to patients and not to insurance companies. And the response to that from one of my Democratic colleagues was, oh, we're taking money from insurance companies. No, we're taking that portion that would be part of the enhanced premium tax credit, and we're putting it in a pre-funded flexible spending account. If people would just listen as opposed to automatically reject, and if people would realize that Democrats are defending a Republican workaround to something that Obamacare tried to do, but they wrote the language poorly so it couldn't be implemented, maybe they would stop and reconsider, why am I part of this a totally ironic situation where Democrats are fighting to the death, keeping the government closed almost 40 days because we want to defend Trump 1 administration policies? The irony here is incredible. So, the president's posting that we need to redirect these enhanced premium tax credit subsidy amounts to our Americans so that they can get their own health care. So, I agree with the president. We need to give the money to the patient and bypass the insurance company for this portion of what they would otherwise receive. Now, I've also been told, sounds great, Bill, but it sounds complicated. 72% of Americans working for a government entity, federal government, state, local, have access to a flexible spending account. 47% of those in the commercial market. Hundreds of millions of Americans have access to these accounts. My wife and I have had an account for several years. This is not complicated. Now, my wife and I are on the small business Obamacare exchange. It's not offered on the individual exchange, but it's offered on the small business exchange, the one that Congress is on. So, but the point is, we are already doing this. If you say it's complicated, you say it's complicated, and yet we're already doing it. So I'm not quite sure where the complication comes. It's like saying it's complicated to play a football game, but we've been playing football games every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. No, it's not complicated. We know the rules of the game. The players know who they are. They go out and they play, and we have a score. So, by the way, if there's going to be some bureaucratic obstacle to getting some rule change in order to make sure we can take it from one exchange to the other, even the people that hate President Donald J. Trump will admit that guy can get the bureaucracy to do things. If there's anybody in Washington, D.C. that can get something done when a bureaucrat says it can't be, it is Donald J. Trump. So you may not like the guy, but at this point, his strength is our strength, so let's use his strength to solve this problem if we can just get beyond an outright rejection, because the president might like it too. Now, and just one example. I'll hold that example just for the sake of time. So let me make clear the differences between the enhanced premium tax credits and a federally funded, pre-funded flexible spending account. Again, this is only the portion benefiting the patient that currently goes to the enhanced premium tax credit, which will be $26 billion this coming year. Who gets the money? Enhanced premium tax credit? Insurance companies. Under a pre-funded flexible savings account, patients and families. What can it be used for? Insurance premiums. For patients, real care. Doctor's visits, dentist visits, glasses, prescriptions, boom, real care. Who makes the decision? The insurance company? No. In the pre-funded FSA, it is the patient making the decision. And does it lower costs? No. Demonstrably, this enhanced premium tax credit has contributed to higher premium costs. Here, the patient is empowered to shop. If I can get my medical service, my mammogram, my MRI, cheaper here than there, I'm motivated to do that because it leaves more money in my pocket. That is called patient empowerment. Give the patient the power, dadgummit. By the way, if it turns out you can save money by paying cash instead of the negotiated rate from the insurance company, pay cash. That begins to lower it. But you would at least get the negotiated price. But now you also have the option of paying cash, and believe it or not, It is oftentimes cheaper to pay cash than to pay the negotiated price from the insurance company. So you save money, and the taxpayer's pre-funding your account also saves money. That's the essence of giving a patient the power. She picks the best deal, just like she would for groceries, for a car, or for a house. Now, how does this empower consumers? The pre-funded flexible spending account doesn't treat someone as a dependent of the federal government like the enhanced premium tax credit does. It treats them like a capable consumer who knows what's best for their family, where to go for their dental work, where to go for their pharmacy, and how much to pay, the negotiated rate from the insurance company, or if you can find it, a cheaper cash price. And instead of Washington paying insurance companies to manage, the insurance company to manage your day-to-day care, you manage it, the patient manages it, the mama manages it with fairness, transparency, and flexibility. Now, by the way, some say, well, won't this cost more? It'll cost about the same as the enhanced premium tax credit, which should be something to appeal to my Democratic colleagues. By and large, we would take the same money going for the enhanced premium tax credit, and we would put it into these pre-funded flexible savings accounts. Now, we'd cut out the fraud. You save some money there, and some little bit and little bit. The second year, I think we would save money. I'd like to do this for 2 years, but this is up for talking, because people are going to start purchasing more wisely. Other reforms will kick in. But the point being, my Democratic colleagues, it'll cost about the same as far as I'm concerned. But the difference is, instead of 20% going to an insurance company's profit and administrative overhead, 100% is going for real care. So, this isn't just fiscally responsible, it is common sense. Now, as I conclude, let me once more point out the irony. The irony is, the enhanced premium tax credits, you can draw a straight line back to the higher premium cost associated with the Trump 1 administration trying to find a workaround for a poorly drafted Affordable Care Act. And since then, premiums have gone up. And what my Democratic colleagues are fighting for to the death is to continue a direct result of that Trump 1 policy. And you could say there's some irony that Republicans are saying, let's go back to an original structure because it gave more money to the patient. I would like to say that's something that, as a Republican, I was always for. But I would say that currently the Democratic position is entrenched. Not all, but entrenched. If a Republican proposes it, if Donald Trump treats in favor of it, we have to reject it. All I'm asking is stop being a Democrat for just a second and be an American. Be an American who hadn't been paid for 40 days. Be an American who's paying too much for our health insurance and too much for our health care. Stop being a partisan and start being an American. I am ready to talk. Again, it's Bill Cassidy, it's not Trump, it's not Thune, it's not anybody else. But only when we begin to communicate are we going to find a solution that works for us all. Let's stop writing blank checks to insurance companies. Let's invest in the patients. And I'll finish by saying this. We got to open the government. We got to open the government. And once we do that, we'll have the people back that can finish drafting this. But we have to be willing to take a risk. We have to get out of our entrenched positions. And by the way, I'm going to get criticized for this, but we got to take a risk. And we take that risk. If we're brave enough to do something different, then we're going to solve this problem. I'm a doctor, but most importantly, I'm a doctor who's an American that wants our country to be served by a Congress which is more concerned about partisan bickering than about the people back home. With that, I yield.
Will the senator from Louisiana yield to some very quick questions? Yes, sir. First question I have for you, senators: how many Democrat colleagues are in the chamber today, right now?
Unfortunately, none.
So zero. Not one single Democrat is in the chamber listening, debating, having a dialogue with you. Question number two: if you're a union worker in my state, Ohio, do these Biden, Obamacare, COVID-era subsidies lower their health costs?
Absolutely not.
If you're somebody on Medicare, no matter where you are in America, do these COVID-era Biden-Obamacare subsidies lower your deductibles?
Absolutely not.
If you get private insurance through a small business like the one I used to own, do these Biden-era COVID subsidies lower your health care costs?
Does nothing to benefit those people you're describing.
If you're unfortunately somebody who is having a tough time and you're on Medicaid, you're disabled, children, do these Biden-era COVID subsidies lower your deductibles or your out-of-pocket costs?
No.
So none of the people I just mentioned. Not union workers, not people on Medicare, not people on Medicaid, not people on private insurance, not unions that negotiated incredible rates. None of them will see lower health care costs. Am I accurate in that?
You're absolutely accurate.
Who stands to gain by the federal government writing a check for $26 billion to do what the Democrats want in order to open the people's government?
Well, insurance companies most directly, and there will be lower
But just to be clear, the money goes directly to the insurance company, correct?
Correct.
It doesn't go through the pocket of the consumer. So if for example, I want to go find a doctor that's going to offer treatment for less money because my deductible's too high, this doesn't help me because I'm not getting the money. It's going to go to the insurance company, correct?
Correct.
And Senator, you're so smart on this topic, and you're the chairman of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. Is that true?
Correct.
Who was the previous chairman?
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders. Okay. Bernie Sanders was chairman when, again, just to be clear,
Last Congress.
which would have been through 2024?
Yeah, he's for 2 years.
And the Biden-era Obamacare subsidies were extended in 22, is that correct?
Correct, I think that's right.
To expire in 25.
To expire in 25.
So who voted for the expiration date of 2025?
Not Republicans, rather Democrats.
So just to be clear, the Democrats voted to have these subsidies expire this year, correct?
Correct.
To your knowledge, was there a hearing last year in 2024 in which the Democrats got together and say, whoa, these Biden-era COVID Obamacare subsidies, we set them to expire in 25, we should really make them permanent or extend them? Was there a single hearing in your committee about that topic?
There was not.
So, wait, I'm confused. They set the expiration date at 25, and then they didn't have one hearing to say, my God, now how about in December of 24? They knew they lost the election. Did they have an emergency meeting in December of 2024 and said, these Biden-era COVID Obamacare subsidies are going to expire. We don't know the Republicans are going to extend them. We need to do that. Did they add it to the continuing resolution that funded the government in December then, when they had total control of this chamber? Did they do it then?
They did not.
So this is a political stunt, and the American people need to see it for what it is. My career, I negotiated my whole life. Negotiations about leverage, would you agree?
Yep.
What leverage are the Democrats using in this negotiation?
Unfortunately, shutting down the government.
What does that mean, shutting down the government? Who's the leverage? Is it air traffic controllers that aren't getting paid? The Capitol Police that aren't getting paid? Yesterday, we tried to fund federal workers who are forced to work. Is that true?
Correct.
Democrats voted that down. Is that correct?
Correct.
Would you have a hard time walking into this building, Senator, and seeing those Capitol Police officers out there and your staff and knowing that you voted not to pay them?
I cannot imagine feeling good about that.
Knowing that you walked by TSA to go to your lobbyist retreat in Napa Valley, and you know that you are responsible for them not getting paid, that they're your leverage? SNAP recipients, Head Start recipients, they're using the American people's suffering as political leverage. That's how far gone the Democrat Party is. What you're offering would hurt insurance companies' pocketbooks, would it not?
Insurance companies will do pretty well no matter what.
But this would hurt their
But it
pocket.
would take $26 billion that would instead go to an insurance company, and instead it gives it to a family for the. I always use the feminine. Women make all the decisions in healthcare. It would give her the ability to make a best decision for real care for her family, finding the best value for her dollar. 100% of it would go to her, to all of those, and they would make a better decision.
Two final questions, and I will yield the floor. Our great senator from West Virginia needs to speak. $26 billion. $26 billion, a number that most Americans can't even conceive. The government is staying closed because Democrats want to give $26 billion more to insurance companies, and you're proposing to give that to the American people instead. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Last question. The COVID Biden-era subsidies were set to expire in 2025 by Democrats. Did you know that when they had power, they set the EV, electric vehicle subsidies, to expire in 2032?
Wait. So just to understand, the EV subsidies did not expire until 2032, but this subsidy for people's health insurance expired this year.
Correct, and they were $7,500. You could lease a Rolls-Royce, a Mercedes, a Lamborghini, and if you did that, the government would give you $7,500, Madam President. I want the American people to think about that when they understand how far gone the Democrat Party has gone. Thank you for your presentation.
Yield.
Madam President.
Senator from West Virginia.
Madam President, while we're getting set up here, I want to thank my fellow senator from Louisiana who just spoke about an issue of health savings accounts, flexible spending accounts. You know what always gets me about the pushback on something like this, when people are going to be able to make their own decisions and have the money go to them rather than an insurance company, for some reason the other side always underestimates the real intellect and the real thoughtful decision-making that go on in families every single day, no matter what your socioeconomic, how much money you make. They always underestimate the voter, and they're underestimating the ability of a family to make a decision about their own health care when they do that. So I congratulate him for his thoughtfulness, as always, and really common sense and really simplicity of what he's really saying. So if anybody's been outside today, and I know many of you are here working, unfortunately, it is an absolutely gorgeous day. Great day for football. Beautiful sun, not too hot, not too cold, gorgeous day. But for a lot of people, it's not a good day. A lot of people around this country are wondering when they're going to get to go back to work, when they're going to get paid, how they're going to feed their families, is their trip going to be canceled? All of this has been put on to the American people, and here we are again, day 39 of the Schumer shutdown. And what is there to show for it? Well, nothing, except a lot of pain on a beautiful day. The chart here, I'm going to put up here myself, is something that I think really hasn't been talked about enough, but it's really something we need to focus on because it shows the fairness of what's going on today. 13 times during the Biden-era presidency, we passed this exact same bill, extending government. Some of this, the VV, is by voice votes. I voted for every single one of these, and so did many of my colleagues. 13 times. And so I think you have to look at the contrast of we've well exceeded this 14 times and probably will again, where we're getting total obstruction from the other side. So families are anxious about their paychecks. Federal workers are not sure when they're going to go back. Capitol Police, the folks here, many of the folks in and around the D.C. area and many West Virginians, because we have a lot of federal employees, don't know where their next paycheck's coming from. I'm really concerned about our SNAP recipients, about whether they'll be able to put food on the table. We have travelers stranded in airports all over this country, and our air traffic controllers, many of them, are pushed to the brink. They're not getting paid. They've got a lot of anxiety about that because they have so many obligations, like many families. They can't meet the obligations. Veterans are facing delays as well. You know what? The American people do not deserve this. They deserve a beautiful day in the fall, watching their favorite football team, if that's what they want to do, or watching their grandchildren play soccer, and not have all of this put on top of them. So instead of ending the shutdown, the Democrats have come forward with their so-called offer, which is a one-year extension of the Obamacare Act subsidies. Well, let me make clear, as my colleagues have, this offer is just absurd. We've been doing this for 39 days the government's been closed. 39 days. And yet this offer is supposed to be the bridge to the end. To me, that's just incredible. The plan is to give $26 billion handout to the insurance companies. Here's my second chart, which shows the revenues per day of insurance companies that do health insurance benefits through the exchange. I mean, it's not millions, it's hundreds of millions. And yet, the Democrats want to hand over another $26 billion. So who does it benefit? It benefits the wealthy. There's no fraud protections. It does nothing, absolutely nothing, to lower the cost of health care. And Dr. Cassidy made a compelling argument about that just previously. So while Americans are feeling the consequences of this shutdown, our colleagues' answer is to shovel $26 billion to the insurance companies. That's not compassion, that is fiscal insanity. So I had a conversation with my Democrat colleagues last night. And they said, well, you know, the insurance companies are saying that it's too late now for them to redo their insurance estimations because of what's going on. So or to make any adjustments, say if you want to bring the income down or you want to do no zero cost plans, it's too late. You know, I'm sitting there thinking, maybe that was the plan all along. Let's close the government for 39 days because now it's too late to make any adjustments. 39 days ago, with the government open, we could have been negotiating all of this. Our leader has sat there in the well every single day and offered to negotiate. The president has offered to negotiate. Many of us have, including me. Dr. Marshall here, Senator Marshall, has a plan that he's had in front of all of us. And yet we're now 39 days. So maybe that's the plan. Maybe that's the plan. Let's hold it out for 39 days so the insurance companies can get their $39 billion. And let's not forget what these subsidies are from. They're out of the COVID era, from the health care that they created and proudly call Obamacare, which none of us voted for. And these bonuses were never meant to be permanent, never. Or they could have attempted to make them permanent themselves. So they set them to expire this year, and the irony that they want to have them expire next year, right before an election, is not lost, I don't believe, on any of us. So instead of doing their job and simply reopening the government, this is not a hard exercise here. This is open the government. They want to make these temporary giveaways permanent. They want to double down on the failures of Obamacare. We're not even talking about the cost of health care, hardly. That whole argument is getting lost on this. A system that they have admitted on this floor, has not been working, and it has irrational demands. So these so-called premium subsidies, they don't lower the cost of health care. They simply shift the cost onto the taxpayer. And under the proposal, wealthy families, people making hundreds of thousands of dollars, would now qualify for taxpayer-funded health care. How many times have I sat on this floor and heard the argument from the other side that all we care about are millionaires and billionaires and eliminating taxes for them, when they themselves are putting $26 billion into the hands of very wealthy companies, but also individuals are able to take advantage of these. So how is that fair to a coal miner in Logan County, or a nurse in Mon County, or a teacher in Wheeling? It just plain is not. These West Virginians work hard every day. They pay their taxes. They expect government to live within its means. Well, not to say they expect government to be open. Isn't that kind of a given here? Government to be open and not hand out big bonuses to big insurers or the wealthy. So meanwhile, because of this shutdown, real people are paying the price. My state of West Virginia, not just thousands of families and people, hundreds of thousands of people are losing their SNAP, have lost their SNAP benefit, which they rely on every month. So when I think about that, what do I think about? I think about the young mother who's maybe a single mother with 2 kids, who's working hard every day but can't get insurance through their employer. They're working hard every day. She's got to be frantic, so concerned about how is she going to care for her kids. That is just an excruciating thought for any mother to have. Our seniors have the same thoughts, but these benefits are a risk because the Democrats won't do something simple like open the government. Our federal employees, our park rangers, our mine safety, my mine safeties, I've got a lot of coal mines. Mine safety inspectors are very thin right now, not doing a lot of their work. People who keep our communities safe, they are forced to wait, to wonder, and to worry. And it is a worry. Family, we're getting ready, we're leading up to Thanksgiving. People make plans in advance. They don't buy their ticket the day before they fly. They make plans in advance. In our family, our kids are married, so one year we get Thanksgiving and one year we get Christmas. So we're making a plan a year in advance to when we're all going to get together and be able to share fun times with our families. But now we got long lines, we got canceled flights, and growing frustration. All this chaos and uncertainty is so avoidable. 39 days is shameful. Senate Republicans have made clear we are ready to negotiate. I mentioned that. The leader, many of us here, including myself, the president himself, we're ready to debate. We're ready to get into this. We're not going to negotiate until the government is open. That is such a reasonable proposition. And they will not take yes for an answer. I thought the irony that the Democrat leader used Senator Thune's words. Senator Thune, every time he talks, he says, take yes for an answer. And he tried to turn it on it, and I'm turning it back to him. You guys take yes for an answer and see where we are. I've talked a lot about the financial costs that this shutdown has brought forth on the American people, but there is a not-so-hidden cost here, one that's harder to measure, and that's the uncertainty and the anxiety that this is bringing to families and businesses across the country. Not to even mention what the international thought must be. What is wrong with these people that they won't open the government? This has got to be what the international community is thinking every day. So, the worry about where your next paycheck will come, when you'll be able to go back to work, when things get back to normal, when I can sit in the stands at my home football game and actually not have all these burdens on my mind. These costs can't quite be measured, but they are very, very real. So I have a hard time believing that my colleagues on the other side have truly grasped this impact. I don't know who they're talking to, but we're getting phone calls, personal conversations all day long talking about the cost of this shutdown. If they did grasp it, they wouldn't have dragged us out for 39 days. I've heard the news reports that some of them are feeling emboldened because of an election on Tuesday. So really? We're going to hold that young mother who's got those 2 kids, we're going to hold her hostage of whether she can feed her family because we have a political advantage? That is just a shameful thought in my opinion. But apparently, by their own words, it's real. You know what? There's no political advantage to a shutdown. I've been through so many of them. I voted many times to reopen the government. There's no political advantage to having our government shut. So I'm also a member of the Appropriations Committee, and I have to say, after many years of stagnant, we've passed bills out of committee including my bill to fund the Departments of Health, Education, and Labor. It is historically a very challenging bill to pass, but we passed it out of committee with bipartisan support. It's waiting here to be brought up to the floor. We passed 3 bipartisan bills through the full Senate, and hopefully we'll be able to vote on those shortly. Leader Thune has fulfilled a commitment to bring these bills to the floor with more to come. Because you know what? That's what legislating is all about. That's what legislators do. So one of the great frustrations to me in this whole process is that the members who supported these bills in committee and on the Senate floor now won't allow us to move forward on these bills. So today I urge my Democrat colleagues, stop with the gimmicks, stop with the political advantage and the political theater, stop holding the government and the American people hostage to a partisan wish list. West Virginians don't want political gains. They want their government open, they want their benefits secure, they want their leaders focused on results. Let's reopen the government, let's restore certainty and sanity, and then let's let the hard work of reforming our health care system in a way that lowers costs and empowers patients. Patients and families. We could have been doing this for 39 days, by the way, but we can't until the government reopens. That's what leadership looks like, that's what government looks like, and governing, and that's what the American people deserve. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
The senator from Kansas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have to tell anybody in this room that this is day 39 of a Democrat shutdown. Day 39. You know, a real common question I get is, who's winning? Are the Republicans winning? Are the Democrats winning? Mr. President, I would tell you no one wins when there's a government shutdown, and especially when it goes on this long, and it's certainly not the American people. My heart goes out with empathy to those folks that have not received a paycheck since October the 1st. Hardworking Americans, you know, I especially feel for our TSA workers, our air traffic control workers, all those people that are out there keeping us safe, our Capitol Police, all these folks that are involved in the safety, the day-to-day safety of Americans. Thank you for continuing to work without being paid. It's interesting to me to understand why the Democrats have shut the government down. And you can blame whoever you want to, but I think it's an 80-20 issue that Americans don't think it's right to shut down the government, holding everybody hostage over these Biden-Obamacare bonuses. $35 billion a year, that's what they're holding the government up over. These $35 billion a year is these enhanced Biden-Obamacare bonuses. That's 0.5% of the federal budget that we're keeping everything else under wraps for. $35 billion that's being given, by the way, to insurance companies. Another subsidy to insurance companies. Overall, Obamacare actually cost the federal government closer to $150 billion a year. That's right, we're spending about $150 billion of your tax-earned dollars supplementing other people's health care. It was interesting when they sold this to the American people, they said it would cost $40 or $50 billion, but we're already triple of that. That's what the American taxpayers are paying. That's $400 million a day. That's right, we're giving insurance companies $400 million a day of stipends from the ACA, from Obamacare, taxpayer money, $40 million a day. If you look at this Obamacare overall, by the way, there's about $25 billion of fraud, and we're going to get into that in a second. And again, there's $35 billion of these Biden-Obamacare bonuses, and overall it's a $150 billion a year project. These dollars are funneled straight into the coffers of big insurance cartels through Obamacare subsidies. All the while they deny claims. Think about what insurance companies are doing today. Through prior authorization and other issues, they're able to deny claims, to jack up costs for everyday families, sending many into bankruptcy. All the while they're boosting their profits, driving up their stock value. Now, what do you mean, driving up stock values? You know, there's driving up stocks and there's driving up stocks. And I think we take a look at this one chart here, and I believe that President Trump put this on Truth Social today as well. United, this is since Obamacare was enacted. United Healthcare Group is now up almost 1,200%. This is their stock price, 1,200%. Cigna's at 800%. I know you're feeling sorry for Humana at only 500%. Molina here at 859% as well. So certainly we understand that these insurance companies have profited from these direct subsidies from Obamacare going into their bank accounts. But what's important is these subsidies aren't really helping the little guy. It's corporate welfare on steroids that boost the profits of giants like United Healthcare, which pocketed over $14 billion in earnings last year alone, laughing all the way to the bank on the backs of struggling taxpayers. $14 billion in earnings. Don't feel sorry for them that they're not going to get this $35 billion a year subsidy. The big winner of Obamacare has always been and will always be large health insurance companies. They and the lobbyists who helped write Obamacare. I want to remind everyone, though, that the ACA ended up being not so affordable as well. Premiums are up over 200%, sometimes 400% since its conception. And we're expecting another spike of 25% increase in premiums. Regardless what Congress does or doesn't do with Obamacare, the premiums are going to go up 25%. And for the most part, the government stands to pay for that entire increase. The way Obamacare is set up, you pay a percentage of your income. So if the insurance rates, if the premiums go up 10%, 20%, 100%, the government is going to subsidize and take care of all that increase. And that's one reason why the insurance companies wrote Obamacare this way. There's basically no recourse. They know whatever they make the premium, that the government's going to pay it. That's why it's not working. And what else? Obamacare, like Medicaid, is not meaningful health care. With an average deductible of $5,000, that's not meaningful access to health care. Obamacare is an abstract failure. It's expensive, it doesn't work, it doesn't give you access. I think everything I've said so far is undeniable, it's unarguable, it's factual. But I want to turn now is to think about goals. Goals that Republicans, Democrats, Americans would have when it comes to health care. Republicans want every American to have meaningful, affordable access to health care. And a $5,000 deductible for people at 200 or 300% of poverty level, frankly, does not give you meaningful access to health care. I want to turn to talk about fraud just a little bit more. Get this. 35 to 40% of Obamacare recipients that are enrolled in Obamacare never file a claim. Let me say that again. There's 24 million people on Obamacare. 35, 40% of those people never file a claim. These are ghost people. They don't even know they're on Obamacare. They've been falsely enrolled in Obamacare. Now, some people would say, "Oh, but there's always some people that don't file a claim." It's usually more like 10%. More like 10% of people in a pool of insurance products are not filing the claim. In this case, it's 35 to 40%. And overall, I think we could say that this group of people in Obamacare is a high-risk group. Big cities like Chicago have pushed people that took early retirement, have pushed them onto Obamacare. These are typically sick people that have been pushed off other plans and they went towards Obamacare. And trust me, I want to address that. That's why we need a high-risk pool that would address those types of folks as well. But the point here is that some 10 million people on Obamacare are not using it, but the federal government is getting the entire premium paid. The insurance companies are getting the entire premium paid by the federal government. So 10 million people, a premium every month. It's like a slot machine going to big insurance companies. So what's the solution? Instead of giving money to insurance companies, let's give it to the American people. Let me say that again. Instead of giving money to the insurance companies, let's give it to hard-working Americans. What a novel idea. Let's turn patients into consumers once again by funding some type of a HSA or a flexible spending account. Call it what you want to. But instead of giving the insurance companies dollars, these premium dollars, let's give that money to hardworking Americans. I did miss one point I wanted to make when it comes to fraud, Mr. President. You know, in addition to address those people that are not that are ghosts, there's ways to fix that. Real simple ones. Number one is to have some type of meaningful ID. Right now, basically, you could give an insurance peddler out there just your name and your birth date, and they can enroll you. They need to go through the same type of regimen that it would take, say, to enroll for Medicare. There's biometrics that we can use as well. But in addition to that, all we would have to do is have a monthly payment. And I understand, it doesn't have to be a lot. You're at 150% of poverty level, you don't have a lot of money. But if there's a there's a $20 payment coming out of your Apple Pay card once a month, you would see that every month. And if you didn't know you were enrolled in something, it would force you to call this company and say, hey, I didn't sign up for this. And we need the highest enforcement levels when people are frauding the federal government like this as well. So let me return now to our flexible spending accounts, our HSAs. Right now, there's about $12 billion every year we're spending on cost share reductions. CSRs, as they're called up here. So we're spending about $12 billion a year on these cost sharing reductions. In addition to that, there's another $35 billion we've been spending on these Obamacare enhanced bonuses, if you will. So our belief is we took both those fundings, the $12 and the $35 billion, and put it into on an HSA card, no different than we do with food stamps or all the other federal programs, and use that money then for your out-of-pocket expenses. Couldn't use it on premiums. That would not make any sense. You would use it for your out-of-pockets, your deductibles, your co-pays. And that would allow you to purchase, to start driving insurance premiums down by picking a product that you know that you have some money in your own bank account, so to speak, to take care of those out-of-pocket expenses. So eventually, as this group of people become consumers again, and they become a better consumer out there, comparing the price of one hospital to another, or a surgery center to a hospital, or a doctor's office versus another's doctor's office, making those choices themselves, they're going to drive the cost of health care down. And I want to remind everybody, we wouldn't touch the original subsidies. So the original ACA subsidies, again, this is pre-Joe Biden, those would remain in place. So don't feel sorry. The insurance companies are still going to get $100 billion a year of these subsidies from the original ACA plan. We're just taking these new enhanced subsidies, these Biden bonus money and the CSR money, and putting those into some type of a HSA account. There's lots of other things we could do as well, Mr. President, to help drive the true cost of health care down. We've talked a lot about a price tags bill, letting patients become consumers and letting them shop, so forcing hospitals and surgery centers and imaging centers and all other health care providers to provide a price tag along with some type of quality outcomes as well. We need to end silver loading. We need to expand options. I hope that we could let people choose association healthcare plans or ministry plans as well. There's many, many things we could do to impact the cost of prescription drugs for this group of people as well. I'll start winding it down here and just say, enough with the lies. The so-called affordable care, the big insurance company cartels have formed a monopoly that control premiums, with the federal government acting as their personal ATM, dishing out billions in enhanced subsidies that only inflate their executive bonuses and shareholder dividends while leaving millions without meaningful access to health care. It's time we demand an end to this rigged system where insurance BMS rake in tens of billions of dollars in revenue, yet rely on some $150 billion in yearly government handouts under the ACA, turning public health into a private profit machine at our expense. Our carrot and stick approach uses federally funded FSAs, HSAs to encourage mindful spending and reward efficient users by converting a portion of their savings into a retirement account eventually. All of this fosters consumerism. If you think about the ACA, we're spending $6,500 a year of federal dollars per each patient, $6,500 per year per patient. We're not spending any more than that on Medicaid. And then the states are putting their money on top. We might as well move these patients into Medicaid as continuing to subsidize these insurance companies. It makes no sense to anybody up here, but yet we continue to throw good money after bad money. In this case, we're keeping the federal government closed because of this insane program. And maybe it's just pride. Maybe it's just pride of my friends across the aisle that they won't admit that the ACA, the Unaffordable Care Act, Obamacare, was a failure. It destroys competition, it destroys consumerism. Overregulation always leads to consolidation of industry. We've seen it with insurance companies, with hospitals. We're seeing it now with doctors' practices even. It's going to be hard to fix this overnight. This has been the law of the land for 15 years. But everything where we are today, the reason that rural hospitals are going broke, the reason that we have $5,000 deductibles, the reason that premiums are going up 25%, it's because of the Obamacare rules. Again, the insurance companies wrote Obamacare. Their lobbyists, big hospital systems, they're the ones that wrote Obamacare. And here we are. They've been on the gravy train now for over a decade. $150 billion a year for these 24 million people. Mr. President, I want to open the government. I want to open the government, but I can't be forced to throw good money after bad money. So many of us want to fix health care. That's why I came here. Fixing health care, it won't be easy. It's 18% of our GDP. But there are fixes out there. It'll take a bipartisan effort. It's going to take months and not weeks and not days to fix it. And all I can do is, I've outlined a plan here. If my friends across the aisle would embrace just two simple concepts of dealing with fraud, and instead of giving money to big insurance companies, that we give it to hardworking Americans. I think that's the framing two pieces of a very good health care package, a very good bipartisan health care package. So I'm asking you to come across the aisle, to shake our hands, say, yes, let's get to work on that. But in the meanwhile, we need to get government opened. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
The Senator from Nebraska.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are now in the longest government shutdown in American history, 39 days. And all across our country, Americans are paying the price. More than 600,000 federal workers have been furloughed. Air traffic controllers, federal law enforcement officers, Border Patrol, and TSA agents, United States attorneys, Capitol Police, and the staff here in this chamber. They show up every day to work, and they're not getting paid. Federal courts are running limited options. SNAP benefits are only partially being issued. Head Start grants, they're on hold. Small business loans are frozen. Aircraft inspections are delayed. Veterans transition assistance is disrupted. National Guard trainings are postponed. Every one of these examples represents real people, hardworking Americans, who are being harmed by this shutdown. 37% of Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency using cash, savings, or a credit card that they can pay off quickly. They need to borrow from their friends or their family. They need to take out a loan, or they need to sell something. And 12% of those folks, They couldn't even pay it all without borrowing or selling. That wouldn't even help them. Mr. President, I want to share a few voices from my constituents in Nebraska. In Okalala, a young farmer who's trying to make ends meet wrote to my office. Even though the FSA offices are kind of open, he is still unable to make advances on his annual operating loans. This is a critical time when land rent payments are due, along with bills for fuel, seed, fertilizer, and equipment. These funds, they were approved months ago. We need to reopen government so our farmers can access that vital assistance. A fire inspector at Offutt Air Force Base who puts his life on the line to keep our troops and nation safe wrote into my office after he missed a paycheck. This is a matter of fairness, respect, responsibility. Government employees are not bargaining chips. The Democrats want to use people like him as leverage. This is not okay. These are not abstract numbers. These are people's lives. A military spouse in Bellevue picked up a prescription at Offutt Air Force Base and was told that she could only receive a 30-day supply because of the government shutdown. She was told to call back in a month and hope they can fill it. A small business owner in Lincoln wrote in that their sales had dropped 47%. Their government customers cannot buy the equipment they need to destroy classified data. That creates a risk to our national security. So this business, they've been forced to reduce staff, and they said they cannot sustain any further delays. Our Main Street businesses aren't asking for special treatment. They're asking for stability. Another spouse of a federal worker who has been called in to continue essential work during this shutdown wrote in after day 24 of her husband not receiving pay for time worked. Their mortgage company and their utility provider, they don't care that the government is shut down. They expect payment. Mr. President, these voices are the heartbeat of America. Farmers, firefighters, small business owners, veterans, public servants. They are not pawns in a political standoff. They are people who serve their communities, and they deserve better than this. Every day does not get better for them. The shutdown must end. We need 5 more Democrats to say, we care more about people than we do about political leverage. We need 5 more Democrats to join the 3 who have already stood with us. That's all it takes to reopen the government. Meanwhile, Democrats continue to push this absurd proposal, a $35 billion handout to insurance companies that benefits the wealthy, includes no fraud protections, and it does nothing to lower real health care costs. These are so-called COVID businesses, or COVID bonuses. I thought COVID was over. I thought it was done. It is done. They were never meant to be permanent. The Democrats, they did this. They set it up with no Republican votes, and even they put this date on so they would expire. But now they want to extend them, doubling down on a failed system that shifts costs to taxpayers and even subsidizes wealthy families. because there is no limit set on these COVID bonuses. There's no limit set on what a family can earn. There's no limit set on the take-home pay of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you can get a bonus. Look at this chart. A lot of my colleagues are using it. It shows the huge increase in stock values for insurance companies under Obamacare. Insurance companies are the winners in this scheme that was set up by Democrats. Well, unlike my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, I don't work for the insurance companies. I work for the people of this country and the people of Nebraska. And Senate Republicans are ready and willing to discuss real solutions to make health care more affordable. But Democrats must first open the government. Mr. President, the American people deserve a government that works. They deserve leaders who put service above politics, people above partisanship, and common sense above the chaos. It is time to reopen the United States government. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
Senator from Iowa.
Mr. President, as I visit with farmers traveling river to river across Iowa, I hear all too often about the crushing weight of healthcare costs on farm families. The Unaffordable Care Act's one-size-fits-none model ignored the realities of self-employment, seasonal cash flow, and the absence of large corporate employers in farm country. Spouses, who are often a family farm's bookkeeper, mechanic, veterinarian, many jobs all rolled into one, have been forced to take off-farm jobs solely to latch onto employer-sponsored coverage. Now, this is what has happened in my own farm family. My brother and my sister are both type 1 diabetics. Both of them have had to find jobs off of the farm for employer-sponsored health care. That means 40 to 60 hours a week away from the very enterprise they're trying to preserve for the next generation. Democrats in Congress branded Obamacare as a chance to bend the cost curve downward. It turns out the only thing it's bending downward are the bottom lines of farmers across Iowa. And the numbers don't lie. Farmers and small businesses are subsidizing a broken system that doesn't serve them. Rural America needs solutions that don't force spouses to find off-farm work or forego health insurance altogether. Premiums are climbing for individuals and small businesses alike, thanks to the Unaffordable Care Act's mountain of mandates. And now, what we are seeing in this DC bubble is that Democrats want to hand out another $35 billion next year straight to the insurance companies with zero guardrails on fraud or income. In other words, Democrats refuse to reopen the government because they want more welfare for the wealthy. It's clear Obamacare has failed to deliver on its promises. I remember President Obama saying way back in the day that Obamacare would drive down the cost of insurance for every family by $2,500 a year. If that were true, we wouldn't be in this situation today. Obamacare has failed to deliver on its promises. The answer isn't pouring more taxpayer cash into a broken system, throwing good money after bad. What we need to do is fix what's broken. President Trump is already working to bring down costs. Instead of extending failed Obamacare and preserving fraud, we can end the waste, return billions of dollars to the taxpayers, and let folks choose from quality options. This is one way we can put patients first. So a number of my colleagues have addressed the shutdown situation as well. And I'm going to veer off on another topic of those federal employees, those air traffic controllers, and for heaven's sakes, our military members that are struggling under this shutdown. Now, many of our military families already rely on SNAP to provide food for their families. We have 1,900 Iowa Army National Guardsmen that are serving across the Middle East today. They are deployed. They have left their civilian employment only to go into a deployed situation where they don't know if or when they will get their next paycheck. Their families in Iowa are struggling right now. They are out there serving for all of us. My daughter is also a soldier in the Army. And at the beginning of the government shutdown, she had the really awful position of having to sit down with her soldiers and counsel them on where they could go to find loans to help their families during the government shutdown. Many of the employees here have had to do the exact same thing. What does it take to get through this government shutdown? It's a simple yes vote from our friends across the aisle. They have shut the government down. We have provided opportunity time and time again to open the federal government, to pay our federal government workers, to make sure our skies are safe, to make sure our military members are paid, to make sure SNAP benefits are getting to every family that struggles with food insecurity. All it takes is a yes vote. We have told the Democrats we are willing to sit down and negotiate on the ACA, the Unaffordable Care Act, and other opportunities. We will do that when we open the federal government. Democrats are not fighting to lower premiums. They are fighting to raise the profits for health insurance companies. Democrats are terrified of the truth about their temporary COVID credits. It's welfare for the wealthy and corporate welfare rolled all into one. Democrats are demanding that Republicans vote to make their handout scheme permanent. Their plan is to line the pockets of health insurers with $500 billion in taxpayer-funded subsidies. Thanks to Democrats, insurers are pocketing record profits fueled by taxpayer subsidies. Extending the Biden COVID credits would cost our taxpayers $500 billion. Democrats shut down the government to protect Obamacare subsidies that send $40 billion to insurance companies, not to the families that need it. So let's be very clear. This argument is not about helping the American families that need better options to health care insurance. It is about sending large wads of money to health insurers. Let's come together and figure this out, folks. We are the United States Senate. We are the U.S. government. This never would have been allowed to happen when I was serving in the United States military. You come up with courses of action, you decide on the best course of action, and you follow through in that mission. We expect our service members to do this every single day. They are at the behest of the United States federal government. We need to open up the federal government, ensure they are paid. Let's take care of their families. Let's take care of the food insecure folks, not just in Iowa, but all across the nation. Let's make sure our farmers are able to make their farm payments this fall. All it takes is a simple yes from our Democratic friends. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
The senator from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's day 39. Day 39 of the government shutdown. Some of us are here working over the weekend. I want to thank all the staff, all the people who work here at the Capitol who are not getting paid. We genuinely appreciate your dedicated public service, putting your jobs and the country first. Thank you. I appreciate that. I know that there are a number of people across the country that are probably pretty peeved off today. There, we'll use that word. Pretty upset about how this government shutdown is affecting them. Sure, many of them got turned away at the airports, receiving emails, finding out that their flights are canceled, their plans for work, for family are canceled. And for what? A senseless government shutdown. I know that there are a lot of people who are struggling. They don't know when it's going to end. They haven't been paid in over a month. They have questions. The members of this body, we ask each other, well, when is this going to end? None of us know. Imagine the people out there across the country who have lives that they're trying to figure out. They have no idea when this is coming to an end. I feel for them. And then the people who struggle the most, people low income who don't know where their SNAP benefits stand, whether this will go on for another week or another 3 years, since it's about standing up to Donald Trump, however long that will take to, I guess, share that lesson. But 14 times I have voted, as have many of my colleagues, to keep the government open, solve this problem, move ahead. Soon, I believe we'll be having the opportunity to vote a 15th time. This one may be a little different. To extend a clean CR that would run until the end of January, along with perhaps some of the appropriations bills that have already passed this chamber on a bipartisan basis. Perhaps the 15th time, we can convince 5 more of our Democrat colleagues to go along with us. But I always choose to be an optimist. I saw the minority leader on the floor earlier today. They, in their proposal, allegedly, even though we haven't seen the written, they say they have a clean CR. We have a clean CR. They don't have a clean CR but they have a clean CR with one exception, a demand, an impediment as it's become, of the extension of the Biden COVID bonuses. That is the difference between what we have offered and what they have offered. And really what it serves as, it has over the past 4 years, Democrats implemented this. They set the expiration date for 2025, but it was a COVID bonus. It was supposed to be temporary, but really what it was a bailout of a failed Obamacare system. But that's what they're holding out over. Let me tell you what that is, what that means, what's inside of it, why the American people should have concerns about it. Healthcare inflation in this country is double of what consumer inflation has been since Obamacare got enacted. In the 21st century, healthcare is the #1 driver of inflation in this country. So I hope we want to get at the cost and the cause of what's affecting the unaffordability of healthcare in this country. Healthcare has increased since Obamacare started by 6% a year, while overall inflation has been 3% or less. But I want to dig in a little bit over the impediment of the Biden COVID bonuses. First of all, the way they're structured, there is massive fraud. With zero premiums and an incentive, because the money goes directly to the insurance companies, is to sign up people, phantom enrollees. No one knows who they are, where they are. The premiums go right to the insurance companies, not to the individual. And what has that done for insurance companies? Well, you can see here. This is what Obamacare and then the COVID bonuses have done for the insurance companies. Record profits. Record profits. During this period, while we've seen the stock performance of health insurance companies go up by 600%, the Dow Jones Industrial has gone up by 300%. Double. Insurance companies have double what the rest of the American economy has done. The other part of these subsidies that are problematic is that there are no income caps. We're not targeting these resources at people who are struggling to pay. We're giving them to everyone that wants them. So I've listened to my colleagues, the gentleman, chairman of our HELP committee, Dr. Cassidy. He's talked about this at length. I've heard others talk about that there is a bipartisan way to do this. There is a thoughtful way to make sure that these efforts are focused on consumers and not on the insurance companies. So there are valid disagreements and substantive disagreements about why the Biden COVID bonuses are bad. But that absolves nobody, no one, of the responsibility to continue to work on resolving the inflationary costs of health care to the American consumer that have come since Obamacare was implemented. I wasn't here for it. I have no pride in ownership, but I do want to fix it. I didn't create the problem, but I do care about making sure that people can afford health care. I want that to happen. I want to make sure that everybody has access to good, solid health care coverage. And we can do that, but we don't need to shut down government to keep working on it. And that's the point. We both have proposed clean CRs. Take out the stuff that we disagree on, keep working on it. Pay the American people, pay the people who work here, get the flights going, and then let's get back to work on doing what we should have been doing for the last 39 days, is having some constructive discussions about how we fix Obamacare, how we drive down the cost of health care in this country, and how we make it affordable again for the American people. We'll have that chance here over the weekend. I hope we'll take advantage of it. I hope we'll reopen the government and begin serving the American people while we continue the very important conversation of how we eliminate the fraud, of how we make health care more affordable. Mr. President, I yield.
Senator Wyden, I'm sorry, the Senator from Oregon.
Mr. President, I come to the floor today to discuss several recent floor developments. Yesterday, Senate Republicans started talking about big insurance companies and women's health care. Now, I've heard a lot of talk from Republicans about how the Affordable Care Act is just a big giveaway to insurance companies. I'd ask any Republican who accuses Democrats of bailing out insurance companies to talk to a small business owner in their state who fears that if they don't have the tax credit next year, I repeat, next year, those small businesses won't be able to keep their doors open, run their business, pay their employees, and pay for health care. Now, if Republicans are serious about cracking down on price gouging by insurance companies and executives who want a big payday, I welcome them to the fight. I have been at it for years. I wrote the first tough law. It was bipartisan, that's on the books, to stop the rip-offs of older people who had 10 or 15 insurance policies that weren't worth the paper they're written on. But I can say that since a handful of Republicans joined me in 2008 to crack down on the abuses of insurance companies, Republicans willing to go after big insurance have been mighty few and very far between. So let me repeat, I'll work with any Republican that wants to go after profit-hungry crooks and get them out of the insurance business where they're jacking up costs and denying care. But it shouldn't come, and I say this to my colleagues, it shouldn't come at the cost of kicking millions out of their health care in January. Democrats want to bring down costs for families. It's that simple. So I'm not a sympathizer with the United Health Group. I'm here on behalf of Carla and Bartley of Eugene, who are looking, I say to my colleague in the chair, they're looking at a 500% increase in their premium this year. Now, Republicans say they might vote to lower Americans' health care costs, but only if we agree, in addition, to a backdoor national abortion ban. Mr. President, as always, Republicans are spinning a tale that the government is funding abortion. It isn't. Here's the reality. The Affordable Care Act already prohibits the use of taxpayer dollars for this care. 0 federal dollars pay for this care in ACA plans. What Republicans are talking about putting on the table amounts to nothing short of a backdoor national abortion ban. Instead of working with Democrats to fix the health care crisis they created, Republicans now want to hold women's health care hostage and force a radical agenda on the American people. So I have one thing to say about that, not on my watch. Under this plan, Republicans could weaponize federal funding for any organization that does anything related to women's reproductive health care. They could also weaponize the tax code by revoking nonprofit status for these organizations. Republicans have already demonstrated that they're willing to weaponize the law to deny women basic health care. Donald Trump defunded Planned Parenthood in his horrible budget bill. So the possibilities here are endless, but the results are the same. A complete and total restriction on abortion, courtesy of Republican senators. They've been laying the groundwork for decades, and now they're pulling out all the stops to do it. The budget chair is already talking about another reconciliation bill in this session, so this is a real and present danger. Donald Trump, on the other hand, said he'd leave abortion care up to the states. Well, this latest scheme makes it pretty clear. A de facto nationwide abortion plan has been his plan all along. Since Roe was overturned, women are being denied life-saving medical care. Doctors are fleeing states where they fear persecution. Democrats were told for years by Republicans that they were blowing these scenarios way out of proportion. We were told again and again we were fear-mongering. Instead, now it's all coming true. Democrats must dismiss this radical Trojan horse against women's essential health care out of hand, and the time to do it is now. Mr. President, I yield the floor.